Welcome to the AWS Executive Insights Podcast. Today, I got to spend some time with Dr. Ruba Borno, AWS Vice President, Global Specialists and Partners. Have a listen as she shares valuable insights on building high-performing teams in today's dynamic business environment. In today's leadership, amongst leaders anyway, purpose is a really important topic. And for many reasons, having a North Star, a vision for companies is really important, but also for personal endeavors. It's kind of that energy giver, if you like, if you can wake up every day with that purpose. Do you have a clear purpose?
I love that question. I often actually ask our sales teams, why do we exist? And not just why do sales teams exist, but why does our company exist? And the answer should be straightforward, and it's customers. We exist because of customers. So knowing your why is really important. My answer for my own why is a little bit different. If I think about my why, it really stems from my own family story. And I feel like my why is driven by a deep sense of responsibility because I've been given an opportunity. I'm a refugee and I'm a daughter of refugees. My parents are Palestinian refugees, and I myself am a refugee of the first Gulf War. My family came to the United States as refugees in 1990 with nothing. And what we had was a sense of determination, and my parents had their education. And so from that, they gave up everything. They gave up the life that they had in order to come to the United States, an opportunity that was given to us by the U.S. government. And it was their education that allowed them to create a life for themselves, for me, and my three sisters. So all four girls. And it's such an amazing opportunity because had they not made that decision to move here, I don't know what opportunities I would have had in life. So because of that, I feel like that opportunity was afforded to me as a gift and given to me as a gift. And I've got the capability. I pushed myself really hard in school, was able to finish a PhD in electrical engineering. I've been successful at work, and all of that is, just a hard work, but there's a luck involved as well. And so I feel like I have a responsibility to keep pushing, but also, more importantly, a responsibility to not only climb the ladder, but actually leave it there so that others can climb behind me. And so that sense of making sure that you're paving the way for others to also succeed, to also take advantage of the opportunities that they have, to create opportunities for them, is my deep sense of why. And it extends not only to my own personal ambitions, but when I look at what I do at work, so much of it is about helping others achieve their ambition, whether it's my team, whether it's in my current role, leading the AWS specialists and partner organizations. Both of those are organizations and teams whose responsibility is to help others achieve a greater ambition than they could without them.
Outstanding. Really clear purpose. And that's led you into very successful leadership roles at Cisco, obviously now with AWS, and you're also a non-exec board director for Experian as well. What is your core leadership philosophy, given all of that background?
It's certainly been a nonlinear journey. So I often say I started my professional career in graduate school because that's where I did have to learn how to work as part of a team. I was part of the largest lab in the United States focused on wireless integrated microsystems, which you now know as the things in the Internet of Things. And it was funded by the National Science Foundation and the Department of Defense. And when you say system, wireless integrated microsystems, the component that I built was part of a broader system because those different components had to come together to work to deliver a value proposition. In my case, it was the power for these wireless integrated microsystems. So from there, realizing that very little can get accomplished alone, but each individual has got to play their position well to make the whole succeed. And that's been a really strong driver, is making sure that there's a sense of accountability for the part that I've got to deliver. And the amount of accountability that I have to have obviously grows and has grown as I've become more senior. So when I was in graduate school, I was responsible for this one device in this system. But if I look at how my sense of responsibility has grown, or my responsibility has grown professionally, at Cisco, I led our customer experience delivery. And so that's a team of 18,000 engineers globally that are delivering services to our customers, managed services, technical support services, professional services, and global supply chain and logistics. And I often would tell the team that we've got to have an opportunity to innovate, experiment. Let's get those bright spots globally. If it works out, wonderful, you will get the credit. But if it doesn't work out, it's on me, and the accountability is on me to ensure that I'm creating an environment where we can innovate and also fail, but manage the risk in that portfolio. And at AWS, as I mentioned, I lead the specialist and partner org. Those are teams that are responsible for providing access through other teams for our customers to get the best out of AWS technology. So if we look at the specialists, they're the deeply technical sales teams that understand the technology inside and out. They can go into a customer, tell them what problem they're trying to solve, help them think through the right architecture, maybe the most cost-effective, tied to the performance they're trying to achieve. They know the trade-offs, and they look holistically at the customer's environment. And if we look at the partner organization, they're now doing that with an AWS partner network of over 100,000, whether it's consulting partners or technology partners who are providing additional solutions and services to meet our customers' needs. And so all of that is providing scale to better support our customers. But again, the accountability now is broader, because if we don't have the right programs or incentives or the right selling motions, we can't achieve that scale and support our customers.
If you look back over your leadership career to date, is there a kind of a moment, light bulb went on in your head to say, this is how I look at leadership, or something that changed along the way? Was there some information that you came across, or a certain leader that you were working for at some time that changed your approach to leadership in its entirety?
This was probably my very first manager experience, also at the Boston Consulting Group. And I was working with two individuals. One was just a stellar, phenomenal team member. And I was trying to micromanage her. I was trying to get her to do things the way that I would do them. And so I was kind of managing every step that she should take. And it was becoming really just difficult for both of us to manage it, because it was a lot of extra time. So she had to wait on me to give her feedback on the next step. And she asked me, she's like, just let me run with it. And I was like, this would be great for both of us. I wouldn't have to stay up till 2 a.m. every night reviewing everything and then on the phone with you to make some changes. And she was so capable that she actually had thought through the solution way better than I could have, because I was managing several people at the time. So I was only giving her a fraction of my attention, and it was slowing her down. But it also wasn't 100% of a person's brain applied to the problem. It was only a fraction. Whereas when she ran with it, she applied 100% of her thinking to it. And it just was a much better outcome for the client. And so my job, I realized, shifting from individual contributor to manager, wasn't about having the answer. It was about asking the right questions. So saying, this is the question we're trying to solve, and being really clear about that, so that the individuals then know which way to go. Or they can get there however they want, rather, but they know the destination that we're trying to get to. I'd say the next one was, and I'm sure by now we're all tired of COVID stories, but that was a really pivotal moment for me as a leader. And I don't think anyone who was in a leadership position during that time, I think, would have a moment that they would remember. And for me, COVID happened about a month after I got promoted to lead that team I mentioned at Cisco, the 18,000 engineers globally. And this was a culture where everyone was in the office. The services team members worked together. It was a culture where individuals worked in pods, or teams worked in pods, and managers would kind of float and check around, especially if I kind of double click on technical support. as they're helping customers with their problems, the manager would kind of float around and share with them best practices. They'd have stand-up sessions on a regular basis, every day in the office. The in-office culture was really, really important. And it was a global team. So you had folks in India and Poland and Japan, all over the United States and Mexico, and so on. And so when COVID happened, we actually had about a week to figure out how to get to work from home. And it was all a testing. So I told my team, I'm like, look, on Monday, let's try 25% of people working from home just to test our systems. This is before there was a mandate. And my team's like, don't worry about it. We're never going to have to all go work from home. I was like, let's just test it out. And then by Wednesday, let's have 50%. And by Friday, let's have 100%. And Monday, the next week, we got the mandate that everybody had to work from home. So we had one business day to test the resiliency of our systems to support customers. So that was one, which is kind of trusting my gut that I needed to at least test out the corner cases, which then became the status quo the next business day. That was a big lesson learned. The next was, at the same time that everybody had to go home, one of the products that Cisco had was WebEx, which is a virtual collaboration product. And so a lot of customers now needed to virtually collaborate because they were no longer working from the offices. And so our workload from a technical support perspective increased by 3x overnight. My people did not increase by 3x overnight. So how do you get individuals to deliver 3x what they were delivering already in an environment that's very different than they were? And that's where the accountability piece was really tested. I put out a call for innovation. What ideas do you have that could potentially help us support all these customers? And we had some incredible ideas. The first was, frankly, using AI. So we used a chat bot that was now solving a lot of the problems that were pretty common for early stage customers. And that handled about a third of the workload, which was great because we rolled it out and everyone was afraid what the impact would be because we live and die by the customer satisfaction score. And it actually got extremely high customer satisfaction scores because it was really fast. But everyone was so worried that it would tank the customer satisfaction score and they wanted to slow roll it and do a pilot. And I just said, look, if it doesn't work, it's fine. We're going to know quickly. We'll know if customers are happy or not. So we had a way to measure whether or not that risk or that innovation was going to work out. So as long as we track our customer satisfaction score, as soon as we see it dip, we'll make some adjustments. And so put it on me. It's on me if it doesn't work out. But if it does, this will save us quite a bit of, it'll help our customers.
If I summarize that, resilience is really important. You also mentioned asking the right questions, getting out of people's way by the sounds of things, and allowing them to make their own mistakes or find their own way to innovate and providing the right questions to guide them. It sounds like innovation, testing, failing, learning, course correcting as you go. Really important to understand how you can grow those teams. And you mentioned obviously teams across multiple countries and all over the world that you manage teams now. What's your approach to building a diverse organization?
I think number one is it's got to represent whomever our stakeholders are. And I started off saying, why do we exist for customers? So a globally diverse team is really important. I think diversity also in terms of experiences. I very much value the Amazon culture. And if you think about where technology is taking businesses today, it's, my previous boss used to joke that IT used to be in the basement and now it's in the boardroom. It's not a joke. It's true. It is now the driver of every business. And having that trusted partner to work with is really key. And it's really key in any team I have. I think the team has to work together. You don't want redundancies. You want team members that complement each other. And the only way that they can complement each other is if they can trust each other. So globally diverse, spike on earns trust is really key. And then there's just diversity of experiences, whether it's, I think about diversity from a full spectrum perspective. But there's just experiences, whether it's the companies that they've worked for, the technologies that they have subject matter expertise in, the backgrounds that they have coming into it, academic backgrounds and otherwise. I think that's really important so that they can complement each other rather than be duplicative with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. And one diverse and inclusive element that we're trying to increase in the technology space is obviously the representation of women in leadership as well. If you had 60 seconds and you were to give some top line advice to an aspiring young female leader in technology, what advice would you give them today?
So a few years ago, I had to give a talk that was what advice would I give to my 15-year-old self. The first was know your why, because what you decide to do for work or professionally, um, it is something that you will want to do every single day, or you should want to do every day. And so you've got to know what your why is to get you through those tough moments. Not every day is beautiful and wonderful and fantastic and you're patting yourself on the back, but what is it that keeps you coming? I think the other piece is trust yourself. There have been so many times where I do wish that I went with my gut, and maybe I didn't. And now that I'm a little bit older and wiser, and my gut is a lot more educated and informed and experienced, I go with it a lot more often. But I think that actually there's a lot of individual instinct that is honed early on, and I don't think we give it enough credit. So I would have tell the 16-year-old to trust your gut more often. And then the third piece is don't go it alone. Uh, Very few incredible things happen with individuals. Collaborating, working with others, and it doesn't always have to be quid pro quo. Doing things nice for others and helping others just for the sake of helping them is exceptionally valuable. We don't get anywhere alone, so the collaboration piece is really key. So I would say collaborate and don't be afraid to ask for help.
How do you find a bit of balance? So obviously, clearly motivated by your purpose, by learning, you mentioned that as well, lifting the ladder higher enough for people to follow you, as you mentioned in your leadership position. Are there other things that you do to find balance and wellness in a broader sense?
I think for each individual, you've got to figure out what is the thing that helps you fill your cup. What's the thing that is important to allow you to do what you need to for the day. I know that not everybody has the luxury of being as, let's say, specific in their schedule of, I need to make sure I have time to work out in the morning, or I need to make sure I end at a certain time so I can see my child. But I think that it's worth doing. It's worth figuring out how to uh, be present in those other moments so that you can be present at work.
Is it true you also used to try and climb a mountain a year? Is that correct?
I did. I used to. Yes. That's a really great chance for me to be humbled, I think, and also feel a sense of accomplishment. I haven't done one since having my child, but I certainly make it a goal to actually climb a mountain with her when she's old enough. So that'll be a fun life goal that I've got to hopefully accomplish.
Amazing goal to look forward to. And using the mountain as an analogy, we are obviously going through a wave of technological transformation at the moment with artificial intelligence. As organizations and leaders think about using this technology, there's a huge ethical consideration, a mountain that we have to climb there. What's your view or advice, given the position you have, on how we think about ethically applying this technology to the work that we do?
I was wondering how you were going to weave the mountain into this ethics question, but actually I have a mountain response for you. The first mountain I climbed was Mount Kilimanjaro. And the reason I picked that mountain, one, is it's totally doable by a novice mountain climber. But two is because the top of that mountain has these glaciers that are disappearing. And I wanted to climb that mountain before they were completely gone, from the ability to see them ever again, and actually took a picture and posed with the glaciers when I got there. So I think the impact that technology is having on the planet cannot be underestimated and discounted. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest ethical challenges that has got to be designed in from the beginning. I don't think that we should be thinking about technology out there and then we'll solve the impact on climate as an afterthought. And actually, it's been such a wonderful thing to come to AWS, where from the moment I joined AWS, our CEO, Andy Jassy, Adam Solipsky, and now Matt Garman have constantly talked about being part of the climate pledge, talking about the efficiency of our technology. We're moving workloads from on-premises data centers to AWS immediately reduces the carbon footprint of our customers to be able to do their work. So there's immediately a benefit there. And the focus on price performance isn't just because we want to provide a low-cost solutions to customers. Price is correlated with the power and the compute requirements. And so by making technology as efficient as possible. So if I look at the Inferentia 2 chip, which provides the best price to performance for inference, which is the majority of the Gen AI workloads in the future, it was designed from the beginning. The goal was to make it the most efficient inference out there for our customers, and it's the lowest carbon footprint out there. Same with Trainium, which is the training chip that is providing the best performance to price ratio for training, which is what a lot of the models are going for right now. So having that designed in from the beginning, and these chips don't just happen overnight. This isn't like a software that was developed in a few weeks and now all of a sudden it's out there. This had to have been conceived years ago to make sure that we were designing it from the beginning of the entire Gen AI supply chain. And it expands all the way through the Gen AI stack. So from an AWS perspective, there's the hardware, so the Trainium chips, the Inferentia 2 chips. Then you go into the managed services layer with Bedrock, which provides the customer the opportunity or the choice to use the best model, ideally the most efficient model for the purpose they need. They don't need large monolithic models for everything, all the work that they're trying to do. They may need a model that's only trained on their data. They may need a model that's only trained on a certain amount of external data. They may need a model that's only a certain percentage accuracy versus something that maybe is 5 nines accuracy. So the different model choice allows the customer to then use the most suitable model and the most price performative model for their purposes. And so I just love that that's designed from the beginning. And that's something that I hope the rest of the technology industry keeps in mind as well.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about today? Obviously, you've mentioned your core leadership principles or policies being around resilience, accountability, and obviously empathy that comes through really strongly in the way that you talk about leading your teams across the world. Anything else you'd like to mention that maybe we haven't talked about so far?
I think the one thing I would add is self-reflection is always really important, and taking a step back maybe once a year. I think when I was more junior, I used to do it a couple of times a year and think through, how have I grown in the past, whatever that time frame is, whether it's 6 months or a year. How have I grown? How have I grown in a way that's been demonstrated to others? What are my ambitions going forward? What are the ways in which I want to grow? And what will I start doing to close that gap is really important. I think that taking a moment to actually write it down, I sit down, I listen to music and just dedicate a couple of hours to really do that thinking at least once a year. I think too often it's probably too much because you wouldn't have grown as much in that time frame. But I would encourage everyone listening to this podcast to take that moment, maybe take it tonight, over the weekend, put on some headphones and think about, how have I grown over the past year, 2 years, whatever, since you last did this? What are the things that I want to do? How do I want to grow? And then what are the ways that I'm going to get there? What are the projects that I want to take on? What type of role do I want to seek? Who do I want to work with to get there? I think that would be it's an incredible exercise that has served me well.
Dr. Ruba Borno, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was amazing to get your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.